Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm 𝐓𝐈𝐌𝐄𝐒, and on this channel, I aim to help you enhance your quality of life, whether it's personally, academically, or professionally. So the topic of today's video is why you should be reading books. And before I delve into this topic, the way this video is going to be sectioned is in the first section, I'll give three main reasons why I think you should be reading books. And then the second section will be mostly book recommendations. So to start, I'm sure you've already heard about the following reasons of why you should be reading books before. Number one, that reading books can help you expand your vocabulary. It gives you an ability to read and learn a lot of new words. Or the second reason could be that it helps to enhance your communication skills and it just helps you to be more agile. You get to learn a lot of new topics and a lot of new things that you never thought about before. And these are good reasons. While these are very good reasons, the reasons why I believe that you should be reading books, number one, is that when you're reading a book, it gives you a sense of liberty and freedom. So, what do I mean by that? The thing is, when we are young, from a very young age, when we get into elementary school up until college, the way the school system is designed is that teachers impose the type of books that we have to read, whether it's for an exam, an assignment, a deadline. We don't get the sense of free will to read the books that we want to read. It's mostly books that teachers assign us to read because of a deadline. So we feel a sense of obligation, like reading a book right from the moment we were young has caused us to feel like it's a sense of chore. It's something that is an obligation and not something that is done out of fun, right? So when from a young age, the way that the school system has caused us to read books, not because we want to, but because it's a form of chore, the ability outside of the school realm to buy a personal book that you like because it fits your interest and your curiosity gives you a sense of freedom because you get to read the book that you like on your own terms. You're not reading it because you know you have a quiz about the book, so you're reading it out of obligation. You're reading it because you're really curious to learn more about the topic, or maybe it's the characters of the book and you are just very curious about what you're reading and you want to commit to it. It's not because it's done out of a sense of obligation. So that's one of the main reasons why I believe you should be reading a book. So the second reason why I think you should be reading books is that it helps you to expand your worldview, right? When you're reading so many books of different genres, you get to experience the world from a different lens. I can remember not so long ago, I was watching a TikTok video, and the guy in the video, I don't remember the source, but the guy said something that I really agree with. He was talking about how when you're reading books of different genres, it's like you're vicariously living different lives. You're living like a thousand lives because you're reading the perspective of people from different walks of lives that get to experience things that your brain would have never even imagined or experienced before, right? So when you're reading books, it really helps you to really understand why people think the way they do, why they behave the way they do, and it offers you like a variety of perspectives and it helps you to also be open-minded, right? For example, if you're somebody and you're curious about what it was like to live in the 1940s or during the Second World War, well, you don't have to look far behind because there are multiple books. For example, the one I can think of is, Japanese survivors that survived the Second World War in the mid 1940s, right? And there are so many books that have been published that talk about the experiences that these Japanese survivors went through. And I think that's incredibly fascinating to be able to move through space and time by reading the perspective of people that were on this planet hundreds of years ago or decades ago is, to me, it's incredibly fascinating, right? So the guy on TikTok that said that, I really agree with his statement. And let's say, for example, you are interested in reading a dystopian book, right? And in this dystopian book, it's a kingdom that hosts so many mythical creatures like nymph, dwarves, or wizards. You don't have to look far behind because there are multiple books that have been published, fantasy books that have world building of these characters, right? So that's one of the reasons why I think reading a book is incredibly fascinating, because you get to explore the world, or you get to explore alternative universes. So the third reason why I encourage you to read books is because reading books allows you to enhance your ability to concentrate. So today, with social media platforms, iPads, iPhones rapidly at our disposal, it is very easy to lose our ability to concentrate on one thing because we're programmed through the internet or social media or doom scrolling to immediately move on to the next topic because we want to stimulate our brain as much as possible. So the ability to just sit with ourselves and to concentrate on one topic for like 5 to 10 minutes, it has increasingly become very difficult for many of us to do, right? Because the way social media is designed is the complete opposite of sitting down and concentrating on one thing, right? So I think that when you are reading books, you feel a sense of commitment, especially if it's a book that you are committed to reading, you're very interested in the topic and you want to know what happens in the end. Like when you're reading a book and you complete that book, it gives you this sense of satisfaction that you really committed to something. You said you were going to complete it and you did. And you get to learn so many new things based on what you just read, right? And there are a lot of people, right? If you're watching this video and you want to start reading books more seriously, but you feel like every time you read a book, you're not able to concentrate, you're not able to finish the book, you're not able to focus on it long term, then that's fine. What you can start off by doing, I recommend you start small, right? And by doing that, you can start by reading mangas. So if you don't know what mangas are Japanese graphic novels, and a lot of the anime movies around the world that are extremely popular today were based on mangas initially. And what I really like about mangas is that you get to really see visuals when characters are dialoguing between each other, or you get to see like the scenery of the storyline, right? And the visuals really helps you to stay hooked rather than feeling like you're reading words all day. And when you're able to start mangas, completing a manga can take between 45 minutes to an hour. So when you start by reading mangas, right? Eventually, because you're used to reading mangas, eventually what ends up happening is that your brain will feel like it wants to read more words because you're used to reading dialogues between characters. So you would want to naturally just start to want to read more words, right? And that's when your curiosity will start to begin, and then you would be more curious to see, I wonder what it's like to maybe complete 100 pages of a book or 200 pages. And then before you know it, your ability to read books based on the size will increase through time, right? So I think that you can start off small. Like if you're committed to completing a book, but you're not really used to reading books and you feel like your attention span is not the widest, then what you can start by doing, rather than committing to, let's say, 500 or 600 pages of a book, then start small. You can start by reading a manga or start by reading a book that is less than maybe 100 pages. And as time goes on, you gradually begin to increase your tolerance and your ability to read books with many more pages. So, circling back to what I was saying earlier about mangas, right? The reason why I'm recommending mangas also is because I believe that Japanese people are incredible at storytelling. Some of the most creative, innovative stories that I've ever read were created by Japanese people, right? So when you read mangas, and let's say you're somebody you're not used to completing a book and you feel bored sometimes when you're reading books, when you're reading mangas and the storyline is a fantasy or it's action or it's mystery, I'm telling you, you are going to gain so much because not only are you going to be developing the ability to concentrate on one thing, but it's not that the subject of what you're reading is boring. It's actually captivating. Like you feel like you need to know what happens next. So the manga is like a page turner for you. And that's what I mean. Like when you're reading something, especially if you want to start by reading mangas to build up from there, like just make sure that the manga you're reading is very captivating, and you're not even going to have a problem with that because I guarantee you the majority of mangas that are out there are extremely interesting. Okay, so now on to book recommendations, right? And I'm going to start off by recommending When You're Ready, This Is How You Heal. I don't know if you can see in the camera. Yeah, so this book is phenomenal. The main author, Brianna Wist, is one of my all time favorite authors. And it just basically talks about healing, right? And how healing, it's not something that is meant to be a linear process, it can be non linear. And whether you're going through a breakup, whether you're going through a transition in your life where you get laid off from your job, or you lose a friend, or you go through a traumatic experience, right? Brianna does an amazing job of like helping you to unpack those emotions and understanding that it's a moment in your life that you have to go through so that the future you can experience bliss. And I really love her writing style. She also authored the book, The Mountain Is You, one of my all time favorite self help books as well, that I recommend to you. And yeah, I really recommend this book. The second book that I recommend, if you're new to finance and investment like I am, right? The second book I recommend to you is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And it's a very, very good book. I really, really liked reading it. The author does a good job at explaining the psychology behind the relationship between money and human beings, and how human beings are what pushes them psychologically to accumulate a lot of debt rather than saving their money, right? And I think the author is really, really good at grabbing your attention, especially if you're somebody you have no idea about what investment is or finance. Like it's a really, really good book to get started in that like realm, right? And on to manga recommendations, right? If you want to start small, like I mentioned earlier, and you want to start by reading mangas, one manga that I recommend is The Apothecary Diaries, right? So this manga is very, very intriguing. It takes place in a fictional country that is based on Imperial China, and the main character that you see on the book cover, Mao Mao, is a teenager who gets summoned by a eunuch, Master Jinchi, in the royal palace to basically taste food that is served to high-ranking concubines of the emperor. So during this era, food poisoning was at an all-time high, and a lot of people would die because of food poisoning. And Momo, from a very young age, she built this tolerance against food poisoning because she's an apothecary. Like she tastes food poisoning, and she's able to detect that pretty quickly in food. And she also has a fascination for herbal medicine. So the eunuch, Master Jinchi, wants to utilize her skills so that she can be of help to high ranking officials in the royal palace, right? And this book, the manga, was adapted into an anime, and the first season was released last year. And the anime is one of my favorites. It's visually stunning, and the storyline is extremely captivating, right? So if you're into a strong female character and you're into historical drama and mystery, I really recommend you start with The Apothecary Diaries. Start by reading the manga. And just to show you a little bit what it's like to read a manga if you've never really tried it before, I'll just like show a little bit of like what it looks like. So yeah, so you can see the visuals, you can see like the dialogues between the characters and how they're drawn. And yeah, I really recommend you read this book. And if you are into maybe romance as a genre, I would recommend that you read this one. The fragrant flower blooms with dignity. Right? So, long story short, the two main characters that you see on the book cover are high school students. The girl, I believe her name is Kaioruko, and the guy, his name is Rintaro. And basically, it's like a Romeo Juliet type of story set in high school, right? The girl, she's from a prestigious school in Japan for girls, and the school is called Kikyo. And basically, people from Kikyo don't get along with people from the guys' school. And the guys' school, it's like a school for delinquents called Chidori. So for so long, Kikyo and Chidori, the students from both schools, they really don't get along. But the two main characters that you see on this main page beat the odds. They defeat the odds by interacting with each other and essentially like developing feelings for one another. And it's a very cutesy like little romance sojo manga. Sojo is I believe it's intended for a younger female audience. So yeah, it's a very good book if you're into romance. And last but not least, I recently started reading this, Your Name, right? The light novel, not the manga. And the I watched the anime a couple of years ago and I thought it was visually stunning, but I think when I was watching the anime movie, there were a lot of things I didn't understand. So I just wanted to read the light novel to maybe get more in-depth understanding about the story. So it takes place in Japan, Tokyo, and the two main characters, they end up dreaming that they're in living the lives of the other. So the guy, he dreams that he's living the girl's life, and the girl is dreaming that she's in Tokyo living the guy's life. I know it's really confusing, but it will make a lot of sense when you start reading the book. And yeah, it's these are my recommendations. If you made it to the end of this video, well, I'm glad you did. And again, like if you are somebody that you want to start reading a book but you really don't know where to start, the recommendations I gave are just that, recommendations. At the end of the day, do whatever you want to do. Like if you want to read a book of your taste and you want to commit to that, I really encourage you to do so and don't give up. Like reading a book and sticking to concentrating on it, it's something that you would develop. You would develop those muscles as time goes on, right? So yeah, I wish you all the best of luck in your journey. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.